The bright screens in the control room at NASA showed something no one had ever seen before. It was 2057, and humanity had spread to Mars and Europa. But now, they faced something much bigger than their small colonies. Jack Harper put down his coffee mug and leaned forward. The signal was real. After all these years of searching, aliens had finally made contact. As Earth's most respected diplomat, with 20 years of solving international disputes, Jack knew this would be his greatest challenge. "We need to respond," said Lisa Owens, the communications expert standing next to him. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard as she tried to decode more of the message. They're waiting for an answer. The alien signal had appeared 3 days ago. It started as a simple pattern of prime numbers, then grew more complex. Now it included images and what seemed like an invitation. Jack nodded. "Work with the team to craft a response. Keep it simple, peaceful, and clear." The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. World leaders met daily. Scientists worked around the clock. Military forces went on alert, though Jack fought hard to keep weapons from being the focus. Then, 56 days after the first signal, it happened. Enormous ships appeared in Earth's orbit. They didn't look threatening, but their size alone made everyone nervous. The largest was bigger than Manhattan. "This is it," Jack said to his newly formed team. Alan Clark, a top expert on biology who now studied possible alien life, stood to his right. Lisa Owens was on his left, holding the latest translation device. The first meeting happened through video screens. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council representatives. They were a mix of different species. Some looked almost human, others were completely strange. One had 6 eyes and skin that shifted colors. Another seemed made of crystal and light. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," said a tall, blue-skinned being who led the conversation. "We are a federation of 27 spacefaring civilizations." Jack kept his face calm, though his heart raced. "Earth thanks you for this peaceful contact. We have much to learn and share." The aliens explained their translators worked through mathematics and basic concepts first, then built more complex understanding. Within hours, they could talk almost normally. What surprised the council most was how quickly humans had advanced. "Your species reached space travel only a century ago, yet you've already established off-world colonies," said the crystal being, its voice sounding like gentle bells. "This is unusual." Jack wasn't sure if that was good or bad. Later, in a private meeting with his team, Jack looked at the files the council had shared. "They've classified us as Tier 4, new to space travel, limited influence. That puts us near the bottom," Alan said, frowning at his tablet. "And look at this map. Our solar system sits right between territories claimed by these 2 species." Lisa pointed to the information about the Vorax and Seldari. Both seem powerful. One military, one focused on mining resources. Neither sounds like good news for us. Jack leaned back in his chair, thinking. The council had invited him and a small team to their headquarters, a massive space station at the galaxy center. They would be the first humans to travel so far. "We leave in 2 weeks," he told them. "Start preparing. We need to know everything possible about these species, their politics, their history. Earth is counting on us." As Jack looked out the window at the huge alien ships hovering silently above Earth, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more happening than a simple welcome. The Galactic Council might be friendly, but they had their own goals, and Earth, new and unknowing, could easily be caught in the middle of something much bigger and more dangerous than they realized. What Jack didn't know was just how right he was, and how much everything would change when they reached the council headquarters. 6 months after the aliens first appeared in Earth's sky, Jack Harper stared out the window of the council transport ship. Stars streaked by as they traveled faster than light. He still couldn't believe he was here, moving through space in ways humans had only dreamed about until now. "It's time for the daily briefing," Lisa Owens said, entering his room. Her eyes showed she hadn't slept much. None of them had. There was too much to learn. Jack nodded and followed her to the meeting room, where Alan Clark waited with his notes spread across the table. The room the aliens gave them was comfortable, with gravity adjusted to feel like Earth. But small reminders everywhere showed they were guests in a very foreign place. "I've been talking with the ship's doctor," Alan said. "Did you know there are over 300 species in known space, but only 27 are advanced enough to join the council?" Jack sat down. "And we're ranked near the bottom." "Tier 4, Lisa confirmed. "It matters a lot. The higher tier species get more votes, more territory, and more resources. Some have been in space for thousands of years." The journey to the council headquarters would take 2 weeks. During this time, Jack and his team met various aliens serving on the ship. Some were friendly, others cold, and a few seemed to look down on humans as primitives who had just learned to leave their planet. On the 5th day, they met Lorax, a small gray-skinned alien with large eyes that blinked sideways. He worked as the council's historian. "Your species interests me," Lorax told Jack as they shared a meal in the ship's dining area. The food was created by machines to match each species' needs. Humans have advanced very quickly compared to others. "Is that good?" Jack asked. Lorax's skin rippled in what Jack had learned was a shrug. "It makes some species nervous. The Vorax especially." Later, Jack and his team gathered privately in their quarters. "I've been studying the star maps," Lisa said quietly. "Earth sits exactly between Vorax and Seldari space. Both have been expanding for centuries." Alan nodded. "The Vorax are warriors. They conquer. The Seldari strip mine planets for resources. Neither sounds good for Earth." Jack frowned. "We need allies on the council." They spent days building relationships with aliens from mid-tier species. Many were polite but careful. Jack began to understand that council politics were complex and dangerous. Small species had to band together or find protection from larger ones, often at a high cost. On the 12th day, their ship arrived at the council headquarters. It was a massive ring-shaped station orbiting a star at the galaxy's center. Thousands of ships of all sizes moved around it. As they docked, a Vorax official came to greet them. He was tall, with red-scaled skin and sharp teeth. His translator used a deep, growling voice. "Welcome, humans," he said, not sounding welcoming at all. "I am Ambassador Grekthar. Your species has caused quite a stir. Such a small, young race invited to address the full council." Jack stood straight, feeling small next to the Vorax, but refusing to show fear. "We're grateful for the opportunity." Grekthar leaned closer. "Your solar system would benefit from Vorax protection. Many dangers exist for new species. Pirates, resource raiders." His sharp teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Even the Seldari, who would strip your planets bare." "We'll consider all options," Jack said carefully. "Do that," Grekthar replied. "Tier 4 civilizations need friends, human. Without them, they often disappear." After the Vorax left, Lisa whispered, "That was a threat." Jack nodded. "And probably just the first of many. We need to learn the real rules here, fast." As they stepped onto the station, Jack felt the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders. They had come seeking friendship, but had entered a dangerous game of power and politics they barely understood. The council headquarters amazed Jack as he walked through its vast halls. Ceilings rose hundreds of feet high. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved about. Some floated in the air, others crawled on walls, and many walked on 2, 4, or more legs. "This place is bigger than New York City," Lisa whispered as they followed their guide, a small purple alien named Vix. Vix led them to their rooms. "The council meeting begins tomorrow. All 27 species will attend. It is rare for a Tier 4 civilization to address the full council." After Vix left, Jack's team gathered to plan. "I've been watching the power dynamics," Alan said. "The Vorax control 6 council seats through alliances. The Seldari control 5. Together, They dominate most votes. Lisa nodded. And both want Earth's system. Over the next day, Jack met representatives from many species. Most were polite but distant. A few were openly curious about humans. And some, like the Vorax, barely hid their contempt. That afternoon, Jack met High Minister Zyle of the Seldari. Unlike the large, aggressive Vorax, the Seldari were thin with smooth, pale skin and six-fingered hands. They moved with careful grace. Diplomat Harper, Zyle said in a soft voice. Earth sits in a fortunate position. Rich resources, excellent star positioning. We're happy with our home, Jack replied. Zyle smiled thinly. The Seldari can offer resource-sharing agreements. We have perfected the art of extraction with minimal planetary damage. Minimal damage? Jack asked. Certainly. We leave planets, mostly habitable. The meaning was clear. The Seldari wanted Earth's resources and would take them one way or another. Later, Jack found Lorax in the Council Library, a vast room filled with glowing screens and strange devices. You've met both the Vorax and Seldari, Lorax said, his large eyes blinking sideways. Not a pleasant position for a new species. Jack sat across from the historian. Can you help us understand how the Council really works? Lorax looked around carefully. The Council claims to protect all sentient life. The reality is different. He touched a screen, showing star maps. In the last 1,000 years, 43 Tier 4 civilizations have been protected by higher tiers. Most lost their independence. Some lost everything. What happened to them? Jack asked. Some became client states, providing resources and soldiers. Others had their planets stripped of valuable materials. A few were simply removed. Jack felt cold. And the Council allowed this. The Council is run by the highest tiers. They make the rules. Lorax's skin darkened with emotion. My own species was once Tier 3. We refused to ally with the Vorax. Now we are Tier 5, with only one colony world left. That night, Jack shared what he learned with his team. We need allies, Lisa said. What about the middle-tier species? They must fear the Vorax and Seldari too. Jack nodded. That's our best hope. We need to find species who will stand with us tomorrow. They worked through the night, meeting representatives from Tier 2 and 3 species. Some seemed sympathetic to Earth's situation. A few promised to speak for human independence. But as morning approached, Jack knew it wasn't enough. The Vorax and Seldari controlled too many votes. Get some rest, he told Lisa and Alan. Tomorrow, we face the full council. As his team left, Jack stared out the window at the countless stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, so small and new in this ancient game of galactic politics. He needed something more than allies. He needed a miracle. What Jack didn't know was that Lisa was about to find exactly that. Lisa couldn't sleep. While Jack and Alan rested before the big council meeting, she decided to explore the council's public archives. As a communications expert, she was curious about the history of other species. The archive room was nearly empty at this late hour. Only a few aliens worked quietly at different stations. Lisa sat at a terminal and began searching for information about Earth and humans. What she found surprised her. There were thousands of files about Earth, dating back millions of years. The Council had known about Earth long before humans developed space travel. That's strange, she whispered to herself. As she dug deeper, she found something odd. Many reports mentioned human recovery rates after disasters, ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts. Each time humans had bounced back faster than expected. Then she found a sealed file. It required special access, but Lisa had learned a few tricks during their journey. She carefully worked around the security and opened the file. Her eyes widened. This can't be right. The file compared human DNA with other species. Most aliens shared some basic genetic patterns, but humans had something unique, a special genetic marker that no other current species possessed. Lisa scrolled further and gasped. The marker matched only one other known sample, DNA from the precursors. Lisa had heard whispers about the precursors during their journey. They were a legendary species said to have spread life throughout the galaxy billions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. She quickly copied the files and hurried back to their rooms. "Jack, Alan, wake up." Lisa shook them both awake. "I found something incredible." Still half asleep, they gathered around as Lisa explained her discovery. "According to these files, humans have genetic markers that match the precursors," she said, showing them the data. "No other living species has them." Alan studied the information with growing excitement. "This shows humans evolved from precursor stock that somehow ended up on Earth. We're their descendants." Jack looked confused. "Why does this matter now?" "Because," Lisa said, "there are ancient council laws about precursor artifacts and sites. They're protected above all else, if humans are living precursor descendants." Jack's eyes widened as he understood. Then Earth would be protected too. We wouldn't be just another Tier 4 civilization. They spent the next hours studying the files. The evidence was clear, but not complete. They needed more proof. "We should talk to Lorax," Jack suggested. As a historian, he might know more about these laws. They found Lorax in his quarters. When they showed him Lisa's discovery, his skin changed to a bright yellow color, a sign of extreme surprise. "This is unprecedented," Lorax said. "If true, it changes everything." "Is it enough to protect Earth?" Jack asked. Lorax's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. "The precursors are sacred in council law. They created the foundations of our galactic civilization before disappearing. If humans truly carry their legacy..." He paused. "It would do more than protect Earth. It would give humans a place on the High Council itself. That's why the Vorax and Seldari are so interested in us." Ellen realized. They must suspect something. "What should we do?" Lisa asked. Jack thought carefully. "We present this at the council meeting. But we need to be strategic. The Vorax won't give up easily." Lorax's skin darkened. "Be careful. The Vorax have spies everywhere. If they learn what you've discovered before the meeting..." The warning was clear. Their lives were in danger. As they left Lorax's quarters, Jack noticed a shadow move in the hallway. Someone had been listening. "We need to move fast," he told his team. "The council meeting is in 6 hours, and I think we just lost the element of surprise." The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around a central floor. Each section held representatives from one of the 27 member species. The room hummed with the sounds of different languages as everyone waited for the meeting to begin. Jack, Lisa, and Alan stood in a small waiting area. They would be called to the floor when it was Earth's turn to speak. "I've prepared the genetic evidence," Lisa whispered, holding a data crystal. "But someone tried to hack into our room's computer this morning." Jack nodded grimly. "The Vorax know something. We need to be careful." The chamber lights dimmed, and a tall, glowing being floated to the center of the floor. This was the Supreme Counselor, from the oldest species in the galaxy. Its body shimmered with soft light as it spoke. "The Council is now in session. Today we address claims regarding the Sol system, home to the newly contacted human species." The Supreme Counselor first called the Vorax. Ambassador Grek Far stepped forward, his red scales gleaming under the lights. "The Sol system sits at the edge of Vorax space," he growled. "We claim rightful ownership through historical exploration. Humans are too primitive to manage such valuable territory. They need our protection." Several Tier 1 and 2 species nodded in agreement. Jack felt his heart sink. Next came High Minister Zil of the Seldari. "The Seldari recognize human independence," Zil said smoothly. "We propose a resource-sharing arrangement. We would harvest only uninhabited planets and moons, leaving Earth untouched." Lisa leaned close to Jack. "That's a lie. Their mining would destroy our entire system eventually." Several mid-tier species rose to speak. Some supported Earth's independence, but most suggested Earth needed a guiding partner from among the higher tiers. Finally, the Supreme Counselor called Earth's representatives. Jack walked to the center of the chamber, his steps echoing in the sudden quiet. Every alien eye, sensor, and sensing organ focused on him. This was the moment that would decide Earth's future. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Jack began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Earth thanks you for this welcome to the galactic community. Ambassador Grekthar made a dismissive gesture. Get to the point, human. Which protector will you choose? The Vorax offer the strongest shield. Jack took a deep breath. Earth needs no protector. We have evidence that changes everything. He signaled Lisa, who stepped forward with the data crystal. She inserted it into the council's system, and screens around the chamber lit up with the genetic analysis. This evidence shows human DNA contains markers identical to those of the precursors, Jack announced. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives jumped to their feet, others called out in different languages. The Vorax delegation's scales flared bright red in anger. Impossible, Grekthar shouted. This is falsified data. The Supreme Counselor raised its glowing arms, and silence fell across the chamber. These are serious claims, it said, its voice like soft thunder. If humans are indeed descendants of the precursors, ancient laws would apply. High Minister Zyle stood. Even if this were true, which we doubt, humans are clearly a failed experiment. The precursors' genetic material mixed with primitive Earth life. They are not true heirs. The chamber filled with murmurs as species took sides. Jack could see they were losing. The evidence alone wasn't enough against the political power of the Vorax and Seldari. The Supreme Counselor turned to Jack. Human diplomat, what exactly does Earth seek from this council? The chamber went completely silent. Every being waited for Jack's answer. Earth's future hung on what he would say next. Jack stood tall in the center of the council chamber. He could feel the weight of the moment. The Supreme Counselor had just asked what Earth wanted. Everyone waited for him to beg for protection or offer deals. Jack looked around the room slowly. He saw the hungry eyes of the Vorax, the calculating stares of the Seldari, and the curious gazes of dozens of other species. In the back, he spotted Lorax, who gave him a small nod. Jack had spent the last hour thinking about what to say. Now he knew. He took a deep breath and spoke in a clear, strong voice. We reclaim our ancestors' legacy now. The chamber went completely silent. Then whispers spread like fire. The Supreme Counselor's glow brightened with surprise. Do you understand what you have said? The Supreme Counselor asked, its voice echoing through the silent room. Jack nodded. I do. Earth does not ask to join the Council as a new member. If humans are precursor descendants, we reclaim our position as founding members, as is our right under the ancient laws. The Vorax ambassador jumped to his feet, scales flaring bright red. This is outrageous. A primitive species cannot invoke the reclamation law. The Supreme Counselor raised a glowing hand. The law makes no exceptions. If the evidence supports their claim, humans have the right to reclaim their ancestors' place. High Minister Zyle of the Seldari moved forward. The evidence is not conclusive. We demand time to examine it properly. A reasonable request. The Supreme Counselor agreed. This council will adjourn for 3 days while our scientists verify the genetic evidence. Until then, the human delegation will remain as honored guests. As the chamber emptied, Jack felt both relief and worry. They had 3 days, but would it be enough? Grekthar approached Jack as he left the chamber floor. The Vorax towered over him, sharp teeth bared in what might have been a smile. Clever move, human, he growled softly. But dangerous. Do you know how many species have tried to claim precursor heritage over the millennia? None survived the challenge. Are you threatening Earth? Jack asked calmly. Merely stating facts. 3 days is a long time. Many things can happen. The Vorax moved closer. You could withdraw your claim. Accept Vorax protection. It would be safer. Lisa and Alan stepped up beside Jack. We'll take our chances with the evidence, Lisa said. Grekthar's eyes narrowed. As you wish. He walked away, his tail swishing angrily. Later, in their quarters, Jack's team met with Lorax. You've caused quite a stir, Lorax said, his skin shifting to excited yellow. No one has successfully invoked the reclamation law in 12,000 years. Will it work? Alan asked. Your evidence is strong, Lorax admitted, but the Vorax and Seldari will fight you every step. They have too much to lose. What happens if the Council accepts our claim? Jack asked. Lorax's eyes blinked sideways. Everything changes. Humans would immediately gain Tier 1 status. Earth would have a permanent seat on the High Council. Your solar system would be protected by the strongest laws in the galaxy. Lisa smiled. No wonder they're so upset. But be careful, Lorax warned. The next 3 days will be dangerous. The Vorax don't always follow rules when they're losing. Jack nodded. We'll be careful. That night, as Jack looked out at the stars, he thought about what he had done. 1 sentence, 5 words, had changed everything. Earth now stood at a crossroads between greatness and disaster. In the darkened room, he didn't notice the small device attached to the wall, a listening device sending everything they said directly to the Vorax embassy. And in his ship, Ambassador Grekthar was already sending orders to the Vorax fleet near Earth. The next 3 days were the longest of Jack's life. He and his team worked with scientists from friendly species to strengthen their case. Alan spent hours in the Council's genetic labs, finding more connections between human DNA and precursor samples. The evidence is growing stronger. Alan told Jack on the morning of the 3rd day. We found 16 more genetic markers that match. Jack nodded, but worry lined his face. Have you heard from Earth? Lisa shook her head. Nothing since yesterday. Communication has been spotty. Something felt wrong. Jack decided to find Lorax. The historian might know if this was normal. He found Lorax in the Great Library, surrounded by ancient texts and glowing screens. Ah, Jack, I was looking for you, Lorax said, his skin a worried gray. News has arrived from the Earth sector. Vorax ships have moved into position around your solar system. They claim it's a standard patrol. Jack's heart sank. It's not, is it? No, the Vorax rarely wait for political solutions when military ones are available. Jack rushed back to their quarters. Lisa, can you get through to Earth? The Vorax have ships there. Lisa tried for nearly an hour, growing more frustrated. Something's blocking communications. Suddenly, their door slid open. A council page stood there, breathing hard. The Supreme Counselor demands your presence immediately. The Vorax have launched an attack on Earth. They raced to the emergency chamber where dozens of representatives had already gathered. Screens showed Vorax ships firing on Earth's defenses. The Supreme Counselor's glow pulsed with anger. Ambassador Grekthar explained this violation of Council law. Earth is under consideration for protected status. Grekthar stood proudly. We received distress calls from Earth. Dangerous elements threaten to use precursor technology. This is a security action to protect the galaxy. That's a lie, Jack shouted. Earth has no such technology. The Supreme Counselor's glow intensified. The timing suggests otherwise, Ambassador. This appears to be an attempt to claim territory before the Council rules. More screens activated, showing the battle around Earth. Human ships fought bravely, but were outmatched by Vorax technology. We must intervene, said a representative from a Tier 2 species. If humans are precursor descendants, this attack is forbidden. We have no proof yet, Grekthar argued. As if on cue, a council scientist hurried into the chamber. Supreme Counselor, we have completed our analysis of human DNA. The scientist projected the results onto the main screen. The evidence is conclusive. Humans carry unmistakable precursor genetic sequences. The chamber erupted in noise. The Supreme Counselor silenced everyone with a gesture. Under ancient law, Earth is now officially protected as precursor heritage, it announced. Ambassador Grekthar, order your ships to withdraw immediately. Grekthar bared his teeth. The law requires council enforcement. Will you send ships to stop us? By the time they arrive, Earth will be ours. Jack stepped forward. I invoke Emergency Protocol 6. The chamber went silent again. Jack had spent the last 2 nights studying ancient council laws. Protocol 6 allowed immediate military action when precursor heritage was threatened. The Supreme Counselor nodded slowly. Protocol 6 is invoked. All available council ships will move to protect Earth. Screens showed council ships from nearby systems changing course toward Earth. Many species, even those who had opposed humans, now offered their forces. Under council law, they had no choice. Grekthar growled in fury. He reached inside his robes and pulled out a weapon, aiming it at Jack. If Earth cannot be ours, then its voice will be silenced. Lisa reacted instantly, throwing herself at Jack. The weapon fired. Lorax, who had entered behind Grekthar, leaped forward with surprising speed, knocking the Vorax's arm upward. Security forces swarmed the chamber, subduing Grekthar. Lorax had saved Jack's life, but Lissa lay on the floor, wounded from the blast. As medics rushed to help her, Jack held her hand, tears in his eyes. The fight for Earth had just become personal. 3 months passed. Jack stood at the window of his office in Washington, D.C., looking up at the stars. So much had changed. The door opened, and Lisa walked in. Her left arm was still in a healing sleeve. Advanced alien medicine had saved her life after Grekthar's attack, but some wounds took time to heal. The Ardani delegation has arrived, she said with a smile. Lorax is asking for you. Jack nodded. How are you feeling? Better every day. The doctors say I can take this off next week. She tapped the healing sleeve. Have you seen the news from the council? I have. The Vorax have been stripped of 3 council seats as punishment. Grekthar will spend the next 100 years in a council prison. The battle for Earth had ended quickly after the council intervened. The combined fleet had forced the Vorax ships to retreat. The few that resisted were destroyed, showing the galaxy that the council would defend Earth with real force. Jack and Lisa walked to the meeting room where Lorax waited. The small gray alien looked different now. He wore the formal robes of a high council member. The Ardani species had been restored to Tier 3 status as reward for their help. Jack, my friend, Lorax said warmly. How does it feel to be a hero? Jack shook his head. I'm no hero. I just found the right words at the right time. Alan joined them, carrying a stack of tablets. He had become Earth's chief scientist for alien affairs. The exchange programs are working beautifully, Ellen reported. We have students from 12 species studying on Earth and human scientists working in labs across the galaxy. Jack smiled. This was what he had hoped for, cooperation instead of conquest. A High Council meets next week, Lorax said. They expect Earth's permanent representative to attend. That representative was Jack. After the crisis, Earth's governments had unanimously chosen him for the position. As a Tier 1 civilization, humans now had a powerful voice in galactic affairs. I'll be there, Jack promised. There's still much to discuss about the precursor connection. Later that evening, Jack met privately with Lorax in the garden outside. Above them, stars shone alongside the lights of alien ships peacefully orbiting Earth. There's something I've wanted to ask you, Jack said quietly. The precursors disappeared millions of years ago. How did their genetic material end up in humans? Lorax looked around to ensure they were alone. I have studied precursor history my entire life. There is an old theory, never proven until now. What theory? That the precursors didn't truly disappear. When they saw how advanced species often became aggressive and destructive, they made a choice. They scattered their people across many worlds, removing their technology and memories, allowing them to start fresh. Jack stared at Lorax. You're saying the precursors chose to become primitive again, to hide among the stars. To wait, Lorax corrected. To develop naturally, hopefully finding a better path to advancement. Many of these experiments failed, but on Earth, we survived, Jack whispered. And more than that, despite your wars and struggles, humans show remarkable compassion and creativity alongside your drive to explore. You found a balance the original precursors lost. Jack looked up at the stars, feeling the weight of this revelation. What happens now? Now you help build a better galaxy, Lorax said. The Council is changing because of humans. More voices are being heard, more cooperation, less domination. As Lorax left, Jack remained in the garden, thinking about those 5 words that had changed everything. We reclaim our ancestors' legacy now. He hadn't known how true those words were when he spoke them. Humans weren't just claiming a political position. They were reclaiming their role as shapers of galactic civilization, with all the responsibility that came with it. And as Jack watched a council ship pass overhead, its lights blinking peacefully in the night sky, he felt ready for the challenge.